Thank you for joining us. This is story time with twisted slivers from the paranormal, the unreal, the real, fictional, and maybe just a sprinkle of truth.
The Unseen Guest. In the heart of a bustling city, Juanita, a meticulous and introverted data analyst, prides herself on organized, predictable life. Her apartment is a modest yet cozy space on the 5th floor, and it serves as her sanctuary. It's her hideaway from the chaotic world outside. Every evening, she follows the same routine, prepares a simple dinner, watches her favorite show, and meticulously sets her alarm clock for the next day. Juanita's attachment to her vintage alarm clock runs deep. It was a cherished family heirloom passed down from her grandmother, Doris. Doris had always believed the clock symbolized dependability and continuity, often contributing to her unwavering spirit during challenging times. She loved its steadfast ticking. She claimed it guided her. She claimed that it helped her figure things out. Even though it didn't match Emily's style, she just felt discarding it was akin to severing a vital link to her family's legacy. Emily was the last in her family to be living, and keeping the clock seemed to be a fragile tie to her roots. She just couldn't part with it. It meant too much to her. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day at work, Juanita noticed something peculiar. As she set her vintage alarm clock, she realized it was displaying the wrong time. Shrugging it off as a minor glitch, she resets it, winds it fully, and goes to bed. However, the next morning, she overslept. That was so unlike her. She learned that the clock, it just never went off. She picked it up, examined it. It seemed to be working just fine. The alarm just never chimed. Over the following days, the alarm clock's anomalies intensified. It began to chime at hours that weren't correct, displaying erratic times, and it even emits a faint, almost imperceptible whispers. Juanita was sure she was just imagining the whispers. She must be tired from all the stress. But Juanita's initial annoyance turns to unease as she starts to feel an unsettling presence in her apartment. Objects seem to shift slightly from their usual places, and she occasionally catches fleeting shadows in her peripheral vision. The air would intermittently emit a smell that Juanita thought smelled like her grandmother, a rose perfume. Oh, wow, I have got to get a grip, Juanita sighed. What was the deal with this old clock? Determined to see if her grandmother had any weird happenings, Juanita researches her grandmother's forgotten old journals that she had sat in a box in her closet. She was going to figure this out. After hours of reading, she learned that the clock belonged to her grandmother's sister, Helen. Helen had died tragically under mysterious circumstances at a very young age in her sleep. Family lore was of Helen's obsession with time. Helen believed the clock was a conduit to communicate with the beyond. She died clutching the clock. As Juanita delved deeper, the boundaries between reality and delusion blurred. The whispers from the clock grew louder in her head. They were incoherent sentences, but they seemed to be beckoning her. Sleep-deprived and paranoid, Emily started to see visions of a gaunt, hollow-eyed woman lurking in the corners of her apartment. If she ever turned to look, the apparition disappeared. She felt pure terror trying to rationalize what was happening. In a desperate attempt to rid herself of this torment, Juanita decided to destroy the clock. She hurled it from her 3rd-floor balcony and watched it shatter on the pavement below. It broke her heart to lose that physical connection to her family, but her mind reasoned if it was necessary, and it was the only way, she had to protect her well-being. Maybe she could find another antique clock at one of the local antique shops. That way she could start her own tradition. That made her feel a lot better. But anyway, that night she slept deeply and peacefully for the first time in weeks. However, her relief is short-lived. The following morning, she looked at her nightstand, and her shattered clock sat ominously on her bedside table. It was pristine. It was intact, and it was ticking rhythmically. Had she destroyed the clock in a dream? Or did it really come back? Can something like this really happen? No, of course not. Well, she thought, if things don't change, I absolutely will throw this clock out the window, she chuckled. This was truly ridiculous, but after a good night's sleep, she knew she wasn't afraid of this clock. It's old. Of course it malfunctions as it wears out, she smiled. Time to get my day going. That night, she easily dipped into sleep. She woke to a freezing cold bedroom, and to her horror, the whispers had returned. Then she heard herself screaming and screaming. It was uncontrollable. She couldn't stop. She felt like she was outside of her body. She could feel cold, bony fingers brushing against her skin, across her face, brushing her hair away from her forehead. She wanted to run. She was shaking with fear. She wanted to hide, to get out, but she felt frozen in place. Instantly, she knew she had destroyed the clock, but it was back, and it wanted her to know it was there to stay. Then came the whisper, but now Juanita could understand what it was saying. Sleep, sleep, sleep. I will come for you when you sleep. The hollow, evil voice whispered. Juanita was trapped and unable to move. The unseen guest had made its home within her sanctuary. It wasn't leaving. Juanita's mind unraveled. All of her senses left trying to cope with the horror. She finally managed to sit up in her dimly lit room and began rocking back and forth to the clock's ticking, rhythmic sound, with her hollow laughter and echoing into the abyss of her fractured sanity. Juanita would now live with the clock.